Spring training baseball is finally here. We have some games to talk about with you guys. We saw so many amazing things, which is crazy to say in the first 2 days of Mets baseball and spring training. Juan Soto home run, Clay Holmes. Oh my God, Clay Holmes. Simone Juan. Everybody was doing a lot of big things. So there's a lot of things we have to talk about in today's episode. We appreciate you guys for coming out and watching or listening, whatever you're doing it on. Make sure you are subscribed to the Mets'd podcast YouTube channel so you can see the video version of this. And if you're listening to us, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, drop us a rating, drop us a review, download and subscribe. And you guys might notice James is looking clear, good camera quality, everything's going. James, are you back in the USA? Let the people know.
I am officially, as of like a couple hours ago. The camera quality was good besides the phone episode. Don't get me wrong there. It was basically good the whole time except the one time I had to do the on my phone in a hostel. That was the one. But we still got the episode. We still got Frankie Matas talking. That was great. Happy back in America. I transferred back through China, which is super weird, but it was a strange place. No Baseball Savant. One of the websites that's blocked in China. Couldn't get the Baseball Savant, the Chinese Wi-Fi during my layover in the airport, which is really frustrating, but super fucking happy to be back and have like legitimate Mets baseball on television. Because like I think you're right, like there was so much exciting stuff to talk about in the first 2 days of spring training. Part of it, like this stuff's definitely really exciting. Part of it's also like, holy shit, there's baseball on TV. Like,
yes,
that's the main exciting thing right now, which is the best part.
Yeah, I mean, besides just watching the Mets, I've been locked into spring training in general. Like, before we even started recording this, I was like, see Jack Caglione today hit a ball 115. We've been mentioning random players doing big things. It's always fun to see the guys that make improvements, hit the ball harder, pitching harder, nastier pitches, new pitch repertoires. And we got a couple of those guys on our team to talk about. But first, I think we have to start this episode with the man, the myth, the legend, Juan Soto in his first at-bat, first game, first ever smelling of the air as a New York Met on the baseball field. Steps up to the plate, hits a 420-foot home run to left center field. You can't make it up with this guy. He's unbelievable. The aura that Juan Soto has is out of control.
It's just ridiculous they stepped up to the plate in the first time he had an at-bat. It's an opposite field home run. And I'm not saying Clover Park is like, this big pitcher's park, but it's like the deepest part of Clover Park right there. It's not really easy to get a ball at opposite field in February in Clover. It's just, it was also so perfect because I think that this was like, you're not really supposed to get that excited about spring training games. Like we get excited about spring training games because we're like sick in the head. But like I saw Tacoma tweeting that this was the second highest gate set tickets ever, second most tickets sold ever for a spring training opener, besides for the Matt Harvey's return from Tommy John surgery in 2015. That was number one, where Syndergaard pitched in relief, which I thought was pretty cool. But so this was number two. They said apparently all the writers are saying the buzz around there is crazy. There's so many more people there than usual. It's just like there's energy. And the fact that he steps up to the plate for the first time and just annihilates the baseball. Off a minor leaguer, we'll say that. Who the fuck cares? It was such a cool moment. It was kind of like an amazing, like, wow, this is. We keep saying we're having these moments like, oh wow, this is real. Oh wow, this is real. Oh wow, this is real. And we're definitely going to have a lot more of them. This was another one where I was like, oh wow, this is real.
Yeah, there's not really anything to deep dive into about Juan Soto. It's more of the narrative stuff at this point of like, holy shit, he's wearing the Mets jerseys. He's wearing orange and blue. This feels amazing. This feels perfect. Like, can't ask for anything better. And especially one thing that I missed as well from this offseason coming back to games, we got our favorite uncles back. Gary, Keith, and Ron for the first game down in Port St. Lucie. They were in peak form already. I don't know how these guys don't miss a beat, but literally from day one, pitch one, Gary, Keith, and Ron were phenomenal as always. SNY is the best.
Yeah, SNY is the best. John DeMarisco also put up the video of the Soto home run, like how it looked in the truck, which I always love when he puts those videos up. But like Keith was getting distracted by like a pickleball player, and they were telling stories, and the little kid was screaming, "Let's go Mets!" at the top of his lungs. Like it's like these kind of things you take for granted when this is happening every single day during the summer. It's nice to have him back.
Now, I know what you've been most excited to talk about here, getting into the nitty-gritty of pitching. I don't know if you guys felt the same way that maybe me and James did watching this. I can speak for James because I was feeling this way. I know the pitching man is. Clay Holmes was really, really fucking impressive in his first start in the majors in a very, very long time. Like, especially for the Mets, it was like, whoa, hold on. They might have cooked here.
Seeing it on the mound, I think it kind of clicks to a lot of what like we were talking about a lot this offseason, what I was saying when they signed him, just a lot of people on Twitter have been saying for a while now. It's just, but seeing it, sometimes seeing the pitches, seeing how uncomfortable the at-bat is for the other hitters with how many pitches Clay Holmes just pulled out of his bag for no damn reason whatsoever. Like, results in spring training are cool. We love that he went 3 innings. There was like, I think it was 3 or 4 strikeouts. I'm saying the results are cool. I truly don't even remember the results for Clay Holmes. But like, the shit you want to look at spring training is actionable. Oh, it was 3 perfect innings with 3 strikeouts. That's amazing. But you want to see the actionable stuff. You want to see the way pitches are moving. You want to see which pitches he's using in which counts. You want to see how hard he's throwing. All this stuff is really important. And like a lot of people were like, this is ridiculous. He only faced minor league hitters. Yeah, again, he only faced minor league hitters. That's why we kind of have to throw out the results. Like 3 innings, 3 strikeouts, who cares? But the fact that he's throwing this new changeup, the kick change, and it looks disgusting. The fact that he got to 98 miles an hour on a sinker and he held it at 95 over 35 pitches, that's really awesome. The fact he's got a new cutter that looks like a weapon against the lefties, that's really awesome. The fact that he was using the 4-seam fastball and looked like it had just perfectly acceptable pitch traits. Like the fact that he was able to marry all those things and bridge all those things together in a 3-inning sample on the mound, which he hasn't done that much in the last few years at all. He may have only done 1 or 2 3-inning appearances in the last few years. It's incredibly, incredibly exciting to see the package together and be like, this is the fact that this is this functional this early leads me to think there might even be more ceiling on this than we kind of thought the last few months.
Can you remember the last time a starter went 3 innings as well in a spring training debut opener? Like that is also super interesting, which means the Mets are very focused on getting him ready for day one to be able to give you some length out of the rotation. And I'm probably assuming that Frankie Montas going down has to do with a little bit of that, maybe expediting how ready or how many innings Clay Holmes could go to start the year. But I think where I wanted to go before we start talking more about the pitches and the stuff is that I thought it was really cool too that, you know, we'll tell you the numbers, we'll tell you the analytic stuff or like the nerd talk, but then hearing like Gary, Keith, and Ron talking about just like visually what it looked like watching Clay Holmes pitch, they were like kind of oohing and ahhing over how dominant and how in control he was on the mound. And specifically, they were like, I can't believe how many ground balls, worm burners or worm killers, they were calling it, that this guy gets. No one really pieced up the ball particularly well off of him.
Well, Bryce Matthews did hit one. Oh, no, that was Danielle.
That was
talking about that. Yeah. But Ron, I think, also specifically mentioned, maybe McKeith, I can't remember, that it looks like the hitters are uncomfortable. I think that's the best thing for a guy like Clay Holmes, where as he's moving from bullpen to rotation, he's never going to have the crazy stuff anymore because when you're gassing it up in 15 pitches and you're throwing 100-mile-an-hour demon sinkers and sweepers across the zone, like it's different when you're doing max effort for 1 inning. So all this stuff's going to come down a little bit, but the key is that if he has enough and he's so big and long and kind of overbearing on the mound and the sinker is crazy, that he can make the batters uncomfortable. It seems like I think Ron mentioned that. I can't remember specifically. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning. I was watching this in Vietnam, but that's what it felt like. That's what it seemed like. And then I also mentioned last episode, 2 episodes ago, I think it was before the Mets'd injury, that Holmes talked specifically about that he was already up to like 30 to 50 pitches in 3 innings because he said that, or maybe, I don't remember who it was, maybe Mendoza was like, it's going to be a long road to get him from 50 to 70. That's going to be the huge hurdle because that's what he really hasn't done in a very long time. That's going to be the jump, which is a big reason why he's this far ahead because I think he's probably going to be stuck in this spot for another few weeks. When the other pitchers start moving to 4, he might still be at 3 or getting to 4 late relative to where he is now. But that next leap that he's going to have to make late in March, that's going to be the really important one to see where Clay Holmes, how much volume he can give us early in the season. We might really need it.
Yeah, I mean, I was just thoroughly impressed from the first inning. If I knew that you had your like phone more ready, because again, you were like live tweet, I'm going to be in Vietnam. It's going to be 2 a.m. I don't know how much I'm going to be able to do. But I was texting my dad. I was texting, shout out our friend Clay. And we were like, man, Clay Holmes looks like a legit starting pitcher right now. We're not going to go to like anything crazy and be like the next Cy Young and ace, none of that. But like right now, it looks like he is going to be, or on the path to be, a very, very capable and valuable starting pitcher in this rotation.
The worst case scenario is that what he put forward was a starter's repertoire. It was like a starter's bag because the sinker's still awesome. He threw a lot of those. The sweeper's still great. He threw a lot of those. He threw a couple of the gyro sliders, which is like the tight slider that just drops down a little bit that you can throw to both lefties and righties. A handful of those. He was also throwing a new cutter that was coming in harder and had a little bit more like kind of lifty, like fastball action on it that he's going to be able to pitch against the lefties because he can be able to kind of mimic the 4-seam fastball and the cutter against the lefties. So he could be able to ton of those pitches so they look similar. But the changeup's the big deal for Clay Holmes because he needed something that could possibly make left-handed hitters swing and miss, or just, probably more of a swing and miss pitch. And this kick change, I was talking to the friend of the program, pitching development guy, Isaac Groffman, about this. It's a very new pitch. Like, it's not something that's been thrown a lot. And that's because when pitchers throw it, for you guys watching us on YouTube, they have their 2 fingers around the ball and they kind of kick it. They kind of spike it with their middle finger. So it's a hard thing to control, but apparently it's better when you have longer fingers to control it with your other 2, which is good for Clay Holmes. Apparently the only guy who's been able to do this well for the last few years is Logan Webb. He's turned that pitch into a complete weapon. He kind of uses that with the sinker and just enough fastballs and colors to make it all come together. But it still wasn't even like that good yet because like Clay Holmes was working this offseason at Tread, and Ben Brewster from Tread quotes with Isaac. It was basically like, yeah, he was getting to -10 for induced vertical break, which is like 10 I don't even know how to describe it on the podcast. But it's dropping a lot more. It's the best way, colloquial way to say it. Yeah. So it's dropping a lot more. Clay's was barely dropping, and he was throwing at 90 miles an hour, which is kind of hard as fuck, especially when you're still getting between like 95 and 97 with the fastballs. It's awesome. Like, this is such a good development. I can't even imagine how positive Clay Holmes' spring debut could have been. I even thought it was crazy that they made him the first spring training start with all of this kind of, I'm not going to say pressure riding on it, but I think he was the one where we were going to learn the most suit with Clay Holmes pitching. And the fact that that was the first one, bang, in our face, that's great. And the
And
one
maybe
thing
that's
we'll keep,
part of the reason too, is like they wanted to see him early. Let's throw him into the first game so
yeah,
that we know exactly what we have to attack with him and we have the most time rather than waiting 3 or 4 extra days. Those could be valuable.
yeah. And I think the biggest thing again with Clay Holmes is that like he worked up to 30 cool, but you could do 30. 30 is easy. He did 30 as a closer plenty of times. It's going to be 50, 60, 70. That's huge. And the fact that his fastball, because he didn't really throw it in the bullpen because the four-seam fastball is not that good of a pitch. It's an okay pitch. When that's 94, 95, 96, you can get away with shit. 94 is the magic number. If he starts extending to 70 pitches and that fastball falls below 94, this outlook is going to change a lot. So keep looking at where he's sitting with his velocity when this number keeps going up. That's the one thing to look out for. But at the end of the day, we're just so incredibly encouraged by this first Clay Holmes start.
All right, FT fam, collectors, there is a new, better way to buy, sell, trade, or display your sports cards. It's called Arena Club. And Kratz, I know you love it. The FT fam's got to go to arenaclub.com/foul to sign up and get a little extra something I'll tell you about in a moment. But buying in the past was clunky.
It wasn't easy. But now you don't have to worry about any of the shipping. And it's all it's easy right there. It's guaranteed authentic too for me, so I don't have to worry about that.
Exactly. Arena Club uses blockchain technology to deliver your card immediately. There's no shipping delays. You don't lose your card in transit. There's no, oh, my dog ate the card and now you don't have it, so here's a different one instead. So right now, 20% off your first slab pack or card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/foul. Use code FOUL. That's arenaclub.com/foul. Code FOUL for 20% off your first purchase.
Yeah, no, it was really, really encouraging, and I'm excited to see what he does the rest of the spring, and can't wait to see what he can do during the regular season. I thought it was a little bit strange watching the game. Did you? I mean, I shouldn't say this. I didn't think it was a little bit strange, but it is a weird question that I feel like we've talked about on this podcast probably more than anybody. But everybody was wearing the purple Grimace jerseys. I think that might have been because of the 7 line. They looked great. The jerseys looked awesome. Are we still holding on to Grimace and the OMG stuff still? Are we grasping a little too tight trying to keep that around?
It seems like the team might try to, and not that's necessarily like the team's fault in the way, but it just seems like the fans are continuing to gravitate towards that, so the team would be stupid not to continue to market it.
Of course.
It's also awkward where like Juan Soto hits a home run and like Jose Iglesias comments OMG in the Mets official Instagram page, and the next day Nick Madrigal might have separated his shoulder, which is even more awkward for this whole conversation. But just to me it feels like if you have a new teams, new guys in the locker room, you have to figure out new shit. Like you have to let these things come organically. Like those things were so great last year because they came organically. If you force a thing, it always stinks. It never works out. So I do think that I also did feel like it was kind of weird that they were still doing OMG stuff. Like I love J.A. Customs. I think he should keep making the signs. The signs are dope. But I think specifically for the team and the fans, Twitter, everything, we probably should leave that. It worked. It was perfect for us. But it's I don't know. You have to definitely see where they take us.
It will be interesting if Jose Iglesias is legitimately not on this team, what you do with like the OMG stuff, or if he, even weirder, ever plays for another team. What do you do with that? It's got to be over then, right? It's like no longer applicable to the 2025 Mets.
I even feel bad right now for this whole Nick Madrigal situation because like he didn't ask to get signed as like an optionable player in this Mets team or not an optionable player. He didn't ask like for the invite to spring training, and people hate him because he's not Jose Iglesias, and he happens to get hurt when he was like playing some decent shortstop. Like he's trying to be a professional ball player. He's trying to like make a living, and people like his Instagram posts are like about like being injured and stuff. Like people are commenting about Jose Iglesias. Like that's kind of sad for him. That's like definitely cringe behavior. I'm not super proud of Mets fans for.
I thought it was a little animal what we were seeing today on Twitter when it was announced, like Tim Healy's putting out tweets and Tacoma and everybody about how Nick Madrigal left the game with shoulder discomfort. And you have people excited that this means Jose Iglesias come back. And listen, I agree Jose Iglesias is a better player than Nick Madrigal. I'm not going to be making that argument that Madrigal deserves a spot over Iglesias. I would prefer Iglesias. I think he's better. I think he's better for this team and a better fit. But at the same time, like the weird like public cheering, I don't think it's like meant to be a personal shot at Nick Madrigal, but it's always weird to like be celebrating a guy's injury because you think it might help somebody else. Always awkward, along with the fact that people who are like David Stearns 0 for 2, it's like you think Nick Madrigal is one of these big piece moves. Jose Iglesias started the year in AAA last year. Like we have to gain some perspective again. I think everybody was very excited. Baseball's back. Everybody's ready that it's going. But sometimes we need to take a little bit of deep breath. I know I mean, myself included, kind of have had some overreactions on this podcast of things that the Mets have done. Don't want to turn into that fan base, though, by any means.
Yeah, just always got to be nice to the guys on the field. Like it's again, like Nick Magical's just a dude right now trying to make a living. He's trying to stay in the league. He's trying to keep the career going. And like I don't know, it's probably, I'm sure he's not reading the stuff either, but it's just not. I don't know. It's never nice to like use someone tearing someone down and trying to pull somebody up. Like that's just not that cool. Especially when I think a big reason that even Nick Magical's brought in here in the first place is because it doesn't matter if he doesn't make the team. You know what I mean? Like David Stern's bringing him in the exact same way he brought in Jose Iglesias last year, where it's like, you can be here, you cannot be here. But like the most important thing is seeing what some of these young guys have. I think that's going to be a big theme this spring. And I know that he's kind of becoming Mr. March. It's kind of always been his thing. But Brett Baty smacking 110-mile-an-hour double to the pull side today, I when I see it with my eyes against a major league reliever, Jesus Tinoco is kind of not really bad. I still think about those things. Those thoughts still creep into my mind. I kind of can't really do anything about it.
Call him Schmetschmady, and all of a sudden you're thinking really big, exciting things for Schmetschmady. But because he has Brett Baty, people get a little bit worried. And I get it. I understand the concerns. I saw someone on Twitter comp him to Kelly Johnson, and I can't shake it. I looked at their stances. They even somewhat look the same. They have similar builds. Brett Baty is more of a third baseman, where I think Kelly Johnson was more of a second baseman. But hey, we see Brett Baty might be trying to play a little bit of second base. I think Brett Baty would be pretty pumped if his career turned into Kelly Johnson. Guy had like a 10-year career and was worth like 20 WAR.
I mean, he's been ground balls at shortstop too, Baty, which is kind of amazing. He's like making himself this much more valuable, versatile to get in the field. But I do think that it's also something we talk about a lot on this podcast, that development for these prospects not linear, like things not automatic. It's kind of funny I say this because I'm right now podcasting in the same spot in my same friend's kitchen that I was when we did our emergency episode 2 years ago when Brett Baty got called up after that series against the Dodgers when Scherzer got kicked out with the sticky stuff because I wanted to break up the travel from LA, so I'm in here hanging out for a few days. But I've been in the exact same spot. I'm kind of thinking, this is weird. These are the things that are in my brain. This is what I think about when I'm like kind of zoning out. When I was literally standing on the customs line, like re-entering the country today, I was like, I wonder if David Stearns was the general manager in like 21, 22, and 23, like when Alvarez and Baty actually would have gotten called up and debuted. Like how much of that was Epler not really having a good grip or a grasp on these things and rushing these guys? Because there was a Twitter user that commented on my post about Brett Baty today at J4M35P4LMTR33. It was a great.
All the other ones were taken.
Yeah, right. I'm saying right now because he made a great point to me. I never really realized about Brett Baty and Vientos, their comparisons, that Vientos has played so much more AAA baseball than Brett Baty. So much more where it's kind of ridiculous. Brett Baty has played 85 AAA games. Mark Vientos has played over 200 AAA games in their careers. And when you think about the fact that both of them were drafted out of high school, and you think about how much more professional baseball Mark Vientos has played than Brett Baty, and how much later in his career he has broken out than Brett Baty with experience in different places, it kind of clicks in a little bit. You're like, oh, maybe Brett Baty just got called up way too early for someone who entered the Mets system, overaged and underexperienced with big physical tools. He got pushed through quickly because he kept playing well. He hit his first roadblock, and we kind of left him at this roadblock. And it probably isn't the worst thing to continue to have faith in a guy like this. Maybe not to be a superstar, all-star caliber player, but to just develop into a ball player one day.
Yeah, I mean, the Mets could use a lot of good baseball players. Not
Ball
everyone.
players.
Listen, I'd love to have an all-star and MVP player at every single position like the Los Angeles Dodgers, but 99.9% of teams will never have that, never will even come close to having that. And these guys like Brett Baty, who can just be major league players that give a positive impact to your team year after year, are so insanely valuable, especially when we're spending $50 million on one player like we are with Juan Soto.
Yeah, one player is going to play right field and DH, so it just helps to have like cheaper options on the roster. And we did a couple episodes ago, we did the projecting the Mets roster in 2030 episode. And it's a fun game to think about that for a team like the Mets, who we know is going to spend a shit ton of money. You really, really need to have these cheap stopgaps all over the field. Another guy who's going to get a shot this spring, Luis Acuna. Haven't seen much yet. We're probably also still in the spot where it's learning about which Luis Acuna is real and what version of him is going to be the realest one. It's obviously going to be not as good as the one at the end of the season last year. And I think it's almost definitely going to be someone better than who was not very good at AAA last year. But it's about, again, still giving him the space to grow, which is why Jose Iglesias was good in the roster last year. It's why Nick Madrigal could potentially be good in the roster this year. Finding the opportunities for these guys and not forcing them to come up too early and it's because it could be counteractive their development like it probably was for Brett Baty.
Yeah, they talked about it on the broadcast today, too, the thought of Luis Angel Acuna, and then they had guys like Donovan Walton, who by no means is exciting to talk about or any means, or Nick Madrigal, and they were saying the Mets right now have to make the decision. Lindor's going to play shortstop every single day until he gets hurt. And when he gets hurt, you figure out who plays shortstop then. So do you really need to carry a guy that can play shortstop when realistically there is no scenario where you need to have a guy to fill that spot at any moment? And that's why guys like Brett Baty and maybe even, I guess like Acuna, because he could play second base too, but like we don't necessarily need the backup shortstop, which also kind of hurts Iglesias in a way, I guess, as well.
Yeah, we really don't need it at all. We didn't use it last year for a big chunk of the first half of the season until Iglesias kind of came on the team. That also probably, if when thinking about specifically a guy like Brett Baty and a guy like Jared Young, who's starting to get some at-bats too,
Yes.
It's kind of the idea of like, oh, it would be nice to have an additional lefty on the roster because late in games you want to mix and match. Oh, Jared Young actually has, I don't think he's had that bat yet.
He got one today. He got hit by a pitch.
He got one today?
Yeah.
All right, there we go. He got hit by a pitch?
He got hit by a pitch and he popped
Dog.
up to the infield. So
I see also he took a walk at some points. All right, we'll take all that. But it's nice to just keep having optionable guys over here to mix and match. So the more players that we can have that can move around, where Jared Young is one of them, Brett Baty is one of them, Ryan Mauricio is one of them, Luis Acuna are one of them. The fact that we have these guys that can go up, down, back, forth, it's helpful for these puzzle pieces rather than just making that backup infielder a guy like Iglesias who's like locked in, guaranteed contract, has to be there every single day, and doesn't give you as much flexibility. The thing that David Stearns says openly all the time that he loves so much.
yeah, and another reason why Jeff McNeil will be going absolutely nowhere, because he can play the infield, he can play the outfield, and I got to say, the swings that I saw in the first game, absolutely loved him from Jeff. Looked like old Jeff McNeil. I know he wasn't hitting the ball, like he didn't get any hits, I don't think, in the first game, but he was keeping his shoulder in. He wasn't running out of the box, which is something that we saw last year way too often. He looked healthy. The contact looked really good. Excited to see what Jeff can do this year. I really think he's going to bounce back big time.
And we also got a knob watch from our buddy Jordan Simpson, that Jeff has switched to a bat. I don't remember if it was the dovetail or away from the dovetail. I don't remember. I can't find the DM right now. But that is supposedly, he said, would give him more power.
Yes.
And Jeff talked on MLB Network. He was like, he switched this bat to try and find more power. And I don't think a lot of people really realize how good he was for a month and a half before the finger or the wrist, the hit by pitch, the end of the season last season. But he was hitting for power when he actually got hot. It was not slap the ball around the yard Jeff McNeil. It was the Jeff McNeil that we saw years and years ago where he was kind of driving those low pitches and pulling them out of the ballpark. Like that's the Jeff McNeil that is the best version of himself. That's Jeff McNeil that can give the most value to his team. And he's going to get a lot of the bats this season unless something goes horribly wrong. So that's definitely the version of Jeff McNeil I want in this roster. Again, everything that we're saying, this isn't bad things about Jose Iglesias.
No.
Honestly, it's kind of the opposite. It's really unfair to Jose Iglesias.
Super sucks.
That he could play so well last year and be such a useful player, and the team that he did that for is like, we probably don't even want to guarantee you a contract. But that's also just the way baseball works for older guys now, which again, it sucks. It's not fair, but that's just the way of the beast.
And also, no one's knocking on his door.
No.
The Mets can literally wait until probably a week or two before the season starts if they really want Jose Iglesias, and I guarantee he'll be ready to go.
Again, he's commenting on their Instagram. It's honestly, it's becoming a little sad. It's
I mean,
like,
you saw the lunch with John Heyman. There's pictures of them having lunch. I was like, oh my God, I miss my buddy, Jose Iglesias, but at the same time, like, oh, what are we going to do?
Yeah, it's just, I don't know how it's going to get resolved, but I kind of like that as distracting from other things that like could be stories right now. So it's like we could worry about Jose Iglesias spring training, just let the guys do what they got to do, because there's a lot of other guys doing cool stuff right now in the Mets. I want to talk about another pitcher real quick. I want to talk about Max Kranick, someone who we popularized a little bit, got big on Mets Twitter last year because he grew up a Mets fan, season ticket holder. Dave Wright was his favorite player growing up. He showed up on Sunday and was throwing BBs. It was like, the stuff was kind of stupid. I saw a couple of the Mets pitching people on Twitter. I saw Isaac. I saw my guy Mikey, MJD Analysis, Jared Seiler, Baseball Perspectives, basically saying like, this was what Kranick was showing towards the end of last season in the minor leagues, but it wasn't really, he didn't get the spot, didn't click yet. But now seeing the fact that he's throwing a fastball, 20 inches of inverted vertical break, getting that crazy hop on it, the fact that he's throwing a super unique sweeper that has like lift on it that can kind of play off the fastball, the fact that he's got the gyro slider with it, the fact that he's using a curveball too, the fact that he's showing like a true 4-pitch mix. He's someone who doesn't even really have a role. Like he threw a 2-inning thing on Sunday, so I guess that means he's being stretched out as a starter, but there's definitely a world where Max Kranick showing this stuff and that kind of fastball sweeper combo, he could definitely be this year's Budo, where he starts the year in the rotation, see how it goes, but then if we want the stuff to play up and things get thin, you move to the bullpen. You could suddenly be a high leverage guy that's good.
Does Max Kranick have options? I know he came up in 21 and 2022 with the Pirates.
He does. He has an option, and this is still the first. Max Kranick still hasn't pitched in the major league since he had Tommy John surgery in 2022. Like this is still someone where it's kind of like untouched, unfeathered clay. He's only a 27-year-old too, so it's not like this is someone who's like even close to over the hill. Like this just seems like another one of these guys in the mess. I wouldn't call him glob of chaos because that's reserved for the 1 inning relievers, but just in the mess of Mets pitching depth with an option that we're probably overlooking right now, that there's a good chance that they're going to rely on for something like 70, 80 innings and hope to get a 4.1 ERA.
Speaking of Tommy John, did you see everybody's favorite pitching prospect of the Mets?
Who?
Matt Allen. Did you see the news about him?
Oh, I mean, I did a little bit, but fill me in.
Yeah, so Tacoma on February 20th. They've been doing a lot of stuff on Matt Allen because it's the first time he's pitching in real games since 2019. And in case you guys can't do math, that is 6 years ago. He has not pitched in the major. He has not pitched a professional baseball game in 5+ seasons. He's been throwing in minor league camp, and he's up to 97 miles an hour. That's kind of crazy.
Can I give you another crazy stat about Matt Allen?
Hit me with it.
Matt Allen is younger than Brandon Sproat.
What?
Yes. Brandon Sproat's almost 25 years old.
I know, but how is that possible? How?
Matthew Allen was drafted as a high schooler.
That's crazy. What?
Isn't that insane?
That's absolutely nuts. I mean,
So
listen,
again,
like,
that's also a funny thing to think about in terms of like all of these guys compared. He's actually almost a year younger. He's 6 months younger than Brandon Sproat. He's not even 24 yet, Matthew Allen.
That's crazy. That whatever. I mean, the story is good. I really hope the best for him health wise, and I would love to be in months from now during our prospect reports be talking about Matt Allen resurgence and the comeback.
Yeah, right.
That'd be amazing. But I just you mentioned the Tommy John thing and not really pitching at the majors. I was like, oh yeah, Matt Allen. How could we forget to mention him?
I mean, it's a great story. If he even gets to one major league inning, I think it'll be just so cool for everything about back. It's kind of like our Honeywell in a way.
Yeah,
where it's just like injury after injury after injury. Like even just getting there, whatever you can wind up giving, like becoming a major leaguer, like cashing some checks. Like that's gonna be very cool. One more, actually two more, of course. Two more relievers I do want to talk about. Until we move on to some end of show stuff. So I think the first guy from the glob of chaos has officially emerged. Someone I mentioned briefly in passing in the winter months. He was actually one of the first guys that the Mets signed all the way back in November 6th. Rico Garcia.
What do you got for us?
It's a plus fastball. It's that low slot, like nice ride on it. But the velocity isn't great. It's kind of like a little bit lower than Dead Neal, so it's probably not the high end ceiling, but someone who could definitely be a middle reliever. And he's got two great breaking balls that can face guys on both sides of the plate. He's got the tight gyro slider that has tons of drop on it. Then he has a curveball with tons of drop on it. And it kind of like both of them are kind of like different death ball variations where like one's like the small death ball and one's like the big death ball. But basically that's someone who already has a 3-pitch bag against both righties and lefties who can come in with a fastball is going to miss bats even though it's not upper 90s. And as long as there's a guy that stays healthy, because they're in his 30s, he's barely pitched in the major leagues. That's someone who could definitely be someone who mixes in middle relief this year, which is incredible.
Can I take a shot at who the other guy that you liked was? Because I mean, I guess
definitely know.
Technically had 3 games, but Tyler Zuper's got to be the other guy as a possible glob of chaos.
100% is the other guy, but also Rico Garcia. He has 35 total major league innings between 2019 and 2023, and he's 31 years old. Doesn't have an option, so he might be one that if he is good enough, he'll stay in the bullpen, or if not, he'll be someone they definitely try to fit in if they think he's good enough. But Tyler Zuber also, we love Tyler Zuber because he's like so active on Twitter and he's so much fun. It seems like he loves like all the Mets culture around them. But he looked great. He did that thing the Mets love where they had a 4-seam fastball, a cutter, and a sinker. He also threw a sweeper that was his primary pitch and was pretty nasty. And I think that pitch, if I remember correctly, also had more drop and more sweep on it than it had last year and came in a bit slower. So could be some experimentation there for Tyler Zuber, someone who is getting more movement on that pitch, a pitch that's going to be his primary pitch. Yeah, it was 5 more inches of vertical break and 3 more inches of horizontal break and 3 miles an hour slower, which is more sweep across the zone. And with the cutter, the fastball, and the sinker, of course, that's the thing the Mets love. Like it's so cool that the Mets pitching development is getting to a spot now with Stearns being here for over a year, Hefner being here for a while, and Yeager's being here for a while, that you can watch the trends happen in real time and you can spot these guys that the Mets are literally manufacturing to become these like major league caliber relievers, like see it in real time, like project it when we think it's going to happen, watch it in real time, then like hopefully enjoy the fruits like during the summer. It's such a privilege rooting for and making content about like a baseball team that is smart and has good process and does all these little things on the edges right. It's so fucking cool.
Don't tell some people on Twitter that David Stearns is not the favorite amongst a certain group of Met fans, which is very interesting to me still to this day.
No, he's literally one of my favorite people on earth. Tyler Zuber also does have an option, which is a cool thing.
Oh, he does. Nice. You know he's playing for the Long Island Ducks last year? I didn't know that.
I know either. I mean, I think he was in the Mets organization and then he was not, and then he came back, something like that.
No, he was a Kansas City guy back in the day, Kansas City Royals. He pitched multiple years in the majors with them, 2020, 2021. He made like 50-something appearances with the Royals, which is kind of crazy. Then he went to Arizona, didn't do anything, got to the Rays, pitched in the majors last year with the Rays and the Long Island Ducks, which is so Tampa Bay Rays, that a guy that was pitching on the Ducks would also pitch on their major league roster in the same year.
Yeah, Rays not really good. Also, 6th-round pick, Rico Garcia, I'm looking at his now, was a 30th-round pick in 2016.
Oh, I like that. I like that. He's a grinder.
He went to Hawaii Pacific.
That's not even the main campus.
And Zuber went to Arkansas State.
Well, Arkansas State's D1. Hawaii Pacific. Yeah. I don't even know what that could possibly be. But yeah, the Mets pitching, it's going to be fun. As always, we will keep a close eye on it. Anything else to talk about? Oh, I know what I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I think a few other small things.
Yeah, Francisco Alvarez has a new stance. It looks exactly like JD Martinez.
Yeah.
He's a little more upright. He is loading, or at least getting like what's the right word? Not activated. Damn it, I can't think of the word. But there's something with his hands and his load, and basically like it's getting him more like launchable, if that makes sense. And he pieced up a couple balls today. Not necessarily even about lift. It's like something about like being activated, getting snapped into a position to hit for some power. So he looked really comfortable. And again, he's trying to prioritize having a better year at the plate this year, as he said very openly so far. And then in the same game, we saw Simone Juan. You guys might remember from a couple international signing classes ago, 19 years old, hit an absolute nuke of a home run. A 3-run shot to left field. 19, having the pop that he showed in that. I mean, that's me and you love like tools. That tool right there is pretty insane from in-game power as well.
Totally. We got obsessed with Simone Juan last spring training when he had 2 batted balls. I think at least one was off a major leaguer that was over 108 miles an hour. And then to watch him in the box today, Sauter in there, I can't get rid of like Jorge Soler comps. And I see him in the box. Just a big power, the very loopy right-handed swing that's like pretty violent. Like I was like, oh baby, I see that. But it's just nice to see. And again, it's cool for these prospects to have these little moments in spring training that we can kind of like put a pin in them and be able to go back to them when like things go bad or things go good. Also, that game didn't have StatCast, but so exciting for some of these guys who don't have StatCast available. Most of the games they played, to be able to see exit velocity, see pitch movement. It's just such a cool little caveat about spring training to get data on guys you don't often get data on.
Last thing I want to mention from the games, the Marlins could go down as one of the worst offensive teams in history. I can't even believe the players that they're running out in their lineup and hitting at the top of the order. It's crazy to me. I don't know if I'm happy or sad that we're playing at the beginning of the year. I guess we'll find out.
No, I wrote their team preview for the Road to World Fantasy Baseball Guide, and like going through their position players who are going to play this season, it was shocking. Dane Myers,
did you
Kyle
hear what
Stowers.
Their manager said, Clayton McCullough?
No.
He said that they have 2 everyday players, and it's Connor Norby and Xavier Edwards. They said every other position will be based on platoons and matchups, which is kind of a little bit of chaos, and I kind of respect it for a team that is complete dog shit.
Yeah, I guess I do respect it. And there's like also some guys with like, again, like Amada come with major league potential on that team, but it's embarrassing what they did to a playoff roster in 2 years. Also, really sick to see what Sandy Alcantara could do in 1 inning.
Yeah, he's definitely
that
back.
Was crazy. And then I think I don't remember if it was Bendix or McCullough after the game. It was like, yeah, he's back, no restrictions. It's like, oh, this guy's just literally a freak of nature. So cool to see him back. I think baseball is better than guys like Sandy Alcantara throwing BBs for 240 innings at a time. Also, one more thing I want to talk about, which especially we're talking a lot about social media stuff now that games are going on. I think the Mets fans, Yankee fans got dialed back off each other. It's become too much. It's become way too much. Like there were Yankee fans tweeting like Juan Soto, Clay Holmes hate watch today, and then all the Mets fans like jumping on them with the quote tweets. Like the Yankees fans shouldn't be worried about spring training games for hate watch. Mets fans, you should not be gloating about spring training results in any way, shape, or form. So I think everyone bring the swords down until May. We get the Subway Series going here.
Yeah, no, I agree. I've definitely seen some stuff where I'm like I love seeing Yankee fans hate the Mets. That's awesome. I'm all about that. I don't think we need to clap back. I think there's no reason to. We got their guy. We got the $700 million man that they went after. He chose us over them. Let the player, let that do the talking. I don't think we need to be clapping just yet when both of our records are 0-0 right now.
Yeah. It's also, I think it's also maybe extra funny this weekend when they lifted the beard policy because that was incredible.
Yeah. I mean,
like
it's about relevant. Time that they've done that, but it was also very funny that they did. It's like the Mets, Juan Soto first game, the Yankees, we lifted the beard policy.
I will say this might be my hot take. I hate that they lifted it. I think it was a cool thing. That
it made the Yankees unique.
No, it was so not cool. But the fact that it was so not cool made the Yankees like the Yankees always had this regal thing, and it wasn't real, but they were like, we won World Series 50 years ago, and then none of our players could have facial hair. Like, that was kind of part of the mystique. Like, if they get rid of the beard policy, I think they should put Monument Park back in the field of play, just to show off how great their history is. Because now I don't know how we know the Yankees have mystique anymore if their players have beards. Like, are they going to put names on the back next? What are we going to do about this?
Probably a little more inclusive. I think that rule could have been made for some diabolical reasons that maybe are not the most PC right now.
Yeah, no, it's still just, I don't know. It's crazy they still had that rule. I thought it was funny that they like had a press release in the first day of spring training about not having it anymore. And they're like meetings between Hal Steinbrenner and Aaron Boone and Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton. And
also,
leaders.
Fucked up that they like had the players shave and then they announced.
Yeah,
it 2 days
that's
later.
the thing. Why not just do this in December or November or some shit? Maybe you still have one, so though if you lighten up a little bit. But I think the last thing I want to talk about too is something I think we missed last week because I was still in chaos with the Frankie Montas thing, the breaking news. But when Steve Cohen gave his press conference about fan attendance, about the casino in Flushing. Definitely kind of some weirdish vibes sometimes.
Yeah, I think we briefly mentioned it. I was like, it was a different side of Steve Cohen that we haven't seen, I feel like.
Business Steve Cohen.
Yeah, we saw a businessman Steve Cohen there. We saw billionaire Steve Cohen, not...
It's the guy that gets things done.
Yeah, not Juan Soto, how much money do you want, Steve Cohen? This is like, I need to make some money now, Steve Cohen. I mean, listen, I can understand his frustration as a new owner and seeing the amount of money that he's invested and being like, how the fuck are we 18th in attendance? But also at the same time, the team was dog shit for the first 90 games of the season. They were really bad.
Totally. But also comes back something that we were critical of. I think we both got shit for on Twitter about that. We were at that Nats series towards the end of the year where it was do or die games. I think the Mets won a walk-off and I think we went to every game that series. There was a walk-off. There was another close game. And, he was like, no one was in the ballpark that week. It was crazy. I couldn't believe it. He's like, we were drawing only like 10,000, 15,000 people, which I do agree with him. Where it's like, if the fans are coming to that game, like what game are they coming to? But I think it also does make sense with it's just hard to draw people to Flushing Queens on a weeknight. That was a school night. Once school starts, that's hard. But I also think that it is getting a little weird with the casino stuff too with him. The fact that he was asked point blank if there's not going to be a casino, were you still going to do the project? He said maybe no. Like, I think we want that project. We need the parks, trains, restaurants.
Oh, definitely.
We need that stuff around Citi Field. That stuff's huge. I think it'd be really cool to even have that without a casino. I really don't give a shit if there's a casino there. I kind of hope it's not a casino there because I think casinos...
Speak for yourself.
I mean, yeah, casinos just bring bad people to areas. Like, that's just the basis for what it is. So I would like to... I'm very curious to see what happens if there's no casino, if we still develop that whole area.
I will say, I think NYCFC getting the stadium right next door as well surely has to make it more likely that there's going to be some development in that area. And really, like we talk about the Mets' lack of attendance and the price for parking on its own is ridiculous. It's not realistic for people to pay that.
Not the Mets' fault.
Not the Mets' fault. It's the city's fault. Shout out the city. Always the best. But
the best.
I think if they're like, because right now going to a Mets game is not a day experience. Like, it's a day experience in terms of time that you have to spend to get to the stadium and leave the stadium. But if you can get people at the stadium because there's restaurants, there's bars, there's hotels outside the stadium, that's how you start getting more and more people to games every single day because it's more of a destination rather than an event that you're going to. And I think that's one way that would definitely help because right now the only options if you want to get a drink or any sort of food before the game is Ebbs and the K Corner. And the K Corner runs stadium prices unless you drink Coors Light. And I don't even know if they're going to do that this year. They better, otherwise I'm going to riot. But they were $3. Otherwise, you were paying $10 for a cup of beer at the K Corner. That's not a good before the game price. And then Ebbs, you have to like craft beer. I drink shitty Coors Light. They don't have that for me. But it's also like the only spot. So you're kind of limited. And there's not unlimited room inside of these places as well. I think that's one thing that also hurts the Mets attendance as well, is that it's you simply come to the game and you leave.
And we lost the boardwalk guy. If that boardwalk guy's back there with the $5 Bud Lights and White Claws, like I'm there for a couple of beers before the game. That's easy. But I always think about when we went to the Battery that time a few seasons ago, where
Atlanta,
we were talking to people in Atlanta, and they were like, "Yeah, I'm from Arkansas. I'm here for the weekend. I'm going to all three games. Like, I'm here from Alabama. I'm going to all three games." Like, I know the Braves more so than most other, I guess, sports teams in the country have more of a regional fan base and like a very set fan base. But then the New Yorkers move all across the country all the time. Like, there's definitely a good chance that there's Mets fans who live in far away states that have moved away, that might need a plane to come back. It'd probably be much easier to have a Mets weekend rather than like a city weekend and go to one game, or even get to one. Saying like you can get people to Flushing, the Flushing metropolitan area for a weekend to go to two games and four restaurants. That's awesome. That changes the whole complexity of what it means to go to a Mets game and for a weekend or for a weekend day.
Yeah, no, definitely. I wish I could remember the name of the guy that we met on the train after
I
one
know,
of
I
the
remember.
games.
Nashville.
But he was from Nashville or Kansas City. I think one of
Kansas
those
City.
cities.
Nailed it. Yeah,
Kansas City. I got you. He knows who he is. But he was
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, I'm here quickly. Like I got to go back into the city and then I got to catch a flight later. Like this is not a mainstream good streamlined process to go to a Mets game if you're not literally in one of the boroughs around the city."
No, which is why, again, next to this conversation, I hope that even if we don't get the casino, that we still build to
Correct.
make this area good, because I think it'll get more people there. And I'm really, really, really interested to see this summer how this unfolds, because the politicians have said Steve Cohen's not getting a casino, and Steve Cohen is acting like he's getting a casino. So I'm
Steve
really,
Cohen
I don't think
also wasn't going to have Jacob deGrom pitch during the 2020 season because of COVID vaccines, and he quickly changed that as well. So
yeah, that was 2021. But Steve Cohen doesn't
2021,
lose
yeah.
very often, so I'm very interested to see, as someone who likes politics, like local politics, all this funny shit, how this plays out. I can't wait.
James will be the local politics correspondent for the podcast because I sure as hell have no interest.
Yeah, no, I'll get my notepad out. I'll start jotting down some notes. I got pitching
also,
data. What?
With attendance, we know that attendance always lags behind performance. I think the first couple months of the season is going to really show how interested Mets fans are, and I think the attendance numbers are going to be significantly higher. I mean, they got me to buy season tickets. I'm sure they're getting a bunch of other people as well.
I agree. I still think April is going to always be hard to draw. Always,
Yeah, I mean,
always,
we'll see.
Always.
Well, that's even more indicative, though. If they have a great
Indicative.
April, you're like indicative, whatever. Fucking who cares? It's 2:00 in the morning. You make me work out these crazy times. I'm just kidding.
I was just in China. I'm here. I'm good. I'm ready to go.
But whatever. We'll see. If they have a good April attendance, they're gonna have a great attendance season. And you keep winning baseball games, people will be there.
That's all that matters, and hopefully that happens. I think this weekend of spring training was a good start to winning baseball games.
Great start. A lot of good things here. We're going to have more games coming up this week. So, of course, on the second episode that we drop this week, we'll update you guys on whatever is going on. So make sure you are subscribed to our YouTube channel if you want to see the video version of this podcast. And if you are listening to us, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, drop us a rating, drop us a review, download and subscribe. We haven't read out reviews in a minute. Should we take a look and read out maybe like one review just at the end to give the people a little something if they have been reviewing?
Yeah, I'll scroll, check them out right now.
I'm going to take a look too. I'll see if I can grab one before you. You know what?
Good podcasting.
I'm going to go with this one. Jacob, username is taken. Oh man, this is so long. Oh my goodness. This is too long, Jacob. We're going to save that for another episode. Instead, I'm going to give us Sean Durham. James and Mark are always the best of getting the truth on all the fresh Mets news. 5 stars. Awesome pod. Thank you, Sean Durham. Appreciate you.
Thank you for that one, Sean Durham. I'm going to try and find one here. Oh, this is all wow. We got some long lists. People are asking questions.
Gavin's on here
yeah,
once a
Gavin.
month. He's the king of the essays. We love you, Gavin. Don't ever change.
All right, but yeah, that's good. So guys, keep reviewing. If you guys give us some reviews, any 5-star review we read out as long as it's 5 stars. Even if it's negative, we'll read it if you give us 5 stars in the actual
Oh, is that
review.
the rule now? I thought we just
that's
read
the
them
rule.
all.
Oh, I'm telling you right now, like I want to coax some 5-star reviews. So give us 5-star review, and you could be mean to us. You can roast us, and I'll read it out in the show.
Okay. I like it.
Yeah,
you know what? Good.
that's the rule.
That's how you buy the viewership. I'm in on that. Guys, thank you so much for listening and watching. Make sure you follow James on Twitter at
James_Shiano.
I'm Draft Nick Mark with a C. We'll catch you all later this week for another episode. Peace out.
Peace out, guys. Let's go Mets.